Though the time for me to do this has passed, I'm making this video as if I'm speaking to my father. And that time has passed because he died 2 years ago. But I think he would have appreciated hearing this if I could have said it in person. In The Empire Strikes Back, which is the second movie in the Star Wars series, Luke goes for training in Yoda's planet, the swamp planet. And Yoda teaches him that anger, fear, and aggression are the dark side of the Force. Easily they flow, quick to join you in a fight. If once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. Consume you it will, as it did Obi-Wan's apprentice. And Luke says, Vader. Is the dark side stronger? He asks. No. Quicker, easier, more seductive. How will I know the good side from the bad? You will know when you're passive, calm, at peace. But tell me what? No, there is no why. Enough have I taught you for today. Clear your mind of questions. And they end up at a cave. And this dingy, dark, swampy planet. And Luke says, something's not right here. I feel cold. Death. Yoda says, that place is strong with the dark side of the Force. A domain of evil it is. And you must go. What's in there? Only what you take with you. Luke begins walking to the cave, and he has his holster belt with his blaster and lightsaber. He says, your weapons, you'll not need them. Luke looks at him, maybe wants to believe him for a second, scoffs, fastens the holster belt, and goes inside. Little does Luke know that this is a simulation that Yoda created for him. It's not real. He asked what's in there, and he was told only what he takes with him. And the weapons are signification of the fear that he had going in this evil domain, for a place that he needed to go into. And the setting is clear. There are some lizards, there are some snakes. It's dingy and dark, and it's pretty passive and silent. And he just walks, turns a corner. And within maybe a minute of movie time of him being in there, this scary music starts playing, and he hears a footstep in a puddle. And the screen becomes hazy, not straight and clear. It's like almost like a slow motion. And he sees Darth Vader turn around the corner, and the music goes from silent to dun, 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 bum, bum, dun, 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 bum, bum. It heightens his fear. And he draws his lightsaber to protect himself, though Vader has not drawn. Then Vader draws. Then Vader attacks him. He parries a few hits. Then he cuts Vader's head off. The body collapses. The helmet rolls. The mask on the helmet explodes. And it's his own face inside. And he looks at it, astonished. The screen pans back to Yoda, who just looks a combination of pensive and disappointed. Then the movie goes back to real life. It shows in the next scene the real Darth Vader, who's still alive in the real world, doing his evil doings, his greed-based evil doings, power-based evil doings. And Vader's hiring bounty hunters to capture Luke's friends. That's what Vader's doing in the meanwhile, the real Vader. This is an allegory to show that the perception somebody walks into a situation with, color at a very realistic level, what they take out of it, and what happens as a result. The more antagonistic a person is going into a situation, the more they protect themselves against the perceived enemy, the more they become the enemy. Luke walked into the cave with fear when he was told that he didn't need to. He didn't trust. And as a result, he drew his lightsaber first to protect himself. He struck down somebody else. And it turned out, in a sense, he was only hurting himself. How does this affect your life? At what level can you realize that so much of what you see is perceptions, and that your perceptions make reality? That phrase, your perception is reality. Can we protect ourselves less while knowing that there's danger, and see the good in somebody else instead of the bad? Make friends with them instead of draw our sword. Can we understand that we're all suffering to one degree or another, and that we all are scared of one thing or the other, or many? Can we not make the mistake Luke did of bringing fear into a place where it wasn't needed? Allowing for vulnerability brings out the compassionate side in somebody else. Though, of course, they can still strike you, and it'll hurt more if you're vulnerable. Which is why you don't want to become vulnerable when you're worried about them. It's a very natural thing. And no matter how much we understand these principles, doing them is the extremely difficult part. And as life goes, more and more we're shown where we're not doing it. We learn through our life experience, when we're honest about the reasons why we failed at things, why we've lost things, when we think beyond our own self about what better we could have done and what our shortcomings were that stopped us from doing that. So maybe instead of thinking about how fearful we shouldn't be, we should think about how good we can be. Maybe we can go into our own caves and think about the best things we can be, the best things we can do, the best relationships we can make with people around us, the best things we can do with our lives, and believe that the dreams we have in our life are possible. Rather than the worst outcome, we can imagine the best outcome and go forward with that fully. It's a process. Luke's Jedi training did not end on that day by any means. It took a whole lot longer. There's no one and done solution. But for the situation at hand, how can we view it more lovingly? How can we view it less fearfully? How can we trust that what we put out into the world will be reflected? If it's good, people will respond to us well. If we're open, people respond to us well. And if we're bad, people will respond to us badly. There's no compromise on this. When we allow our perceptions to change for the better, every aspect of our life becomes better. Instead of the surroundings being hostile, instead of the people around us and in our lives being hostile, they can be loving friends. They can be nurturing environments. We can find oneness with them and walk together. Instead of focusing on differences, focusing on similarities. Instead of focusing on fear, focusing on courage, or on love, or on transcendence. No doubt there are things that need to be feared, or rather, there are things that are dangerous, and there are significant differences between people and things that make them incompatible. How we deal with the reality is where our reality lies. How much we focus on the negative versus the positive. Therein lies the secret. It took a long time for Luke to finally learn. He went to face Darth Vader later in that movie. Vader says, "The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet." And Luke bites his teeth, walks up the stairs, and draws his lightsaber. First, he didn't learn anything. He didn't fully learn it, because faced with a situation where he's actually in the room now with this guy, the real deal, not in his imagination, the fear came back. Not only does he draw first, he swings first. And with all of his force and might, he strikes, he keeps trying to hit Vader, and Vader, one hand, wait, no. Whichever one is more casual, one hand or two hands, he's just playing with them. It's completely non-threatening to Vader. And Luke gets kicked down the stairs, he gets thrown into a pit. So much bad stuff happens to him because he is horribly outmatched, because we cannot outmatch reality. And Vader is a reality. Luke lost that fight. And he escaped by surrendering himself to the universe. Like, he jumped off of a cliff, essentially, and somehow he got saved after getting his arm chopped off. Only in the next movie did he go to Vader and surrender himself and refuse to fight him. And then Vader became his Vader, who is his father, actually. Instead of fighting him, instead of hurting him, sacrificed himself to save Luke's life from the Emperor of evil. These two people who were swinging swords at each other in the last movie. Came into divine love and divine union as father and son. This is the transformation. that can happen. But you'll fail time after time. No matter how much you know, you'll fail. But you come back in the next movie, in the next chapter. You come back transformed and better. And you can reach the goal you want. You can find love in a relationship where you don't see it now. You can find connection with the world and with people around you that you couldn't have when you're in fearful perceptions. And instead of being enemies, Vader allowed himself to die for Luke, who would have allowed himself to die for Vader. Therein is the beauty of the story and that trilogy, the conclusion of those movies. And Vader says to Luke, "Son, help me take this mask off." Luke says, "But you'll die because it's a life support." Nothing can stop that now. Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes. And underneath this mask is not this. Underneath this mask is this frail, and if you're to be judgmental, pathetic looking character. He hasn't seen the sun in decades. He's scarred. He looks horrible. That's what he is under the mask. He says, "Now go, son. Leave me. I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you. You already have, Luke. You already have." And he dies. That is a literal example of turning an enemy into a friend. Of not fearing them, but seeing the fear in your own self, and then operating with love. We should think about situations we've faltered in, opportunities we've missed, relationships we've lost, moments we've lost because of this fearful mentality, and go through the hard work, which takes time, of changing those perceptions and of seeing a more loving and better world, both outside and inside. And we can treat the world like a loving friend rather than a hostile enemy. A loving friend that has sustained us for so much time. Loving friend that has given to us all the experiences that we've had here. Memories with parents, memories with friends, the good times, and of course the bad too. But a loving friend that will reflect to us what we're giving to it, which might sound indifferent, but it's a good thing. You should always get a one-to-one reaction to what you're doing. Otherwise you won't learn. Otherwise you're getting more than you're giving. And you must get as much as you give. And you must give primarily. Luke gave his love to Vader, not his sword. And Vader gave his love back, and not his sword. We can let this power carry us through our lives and change the framework through which we view things. to treat everything like our loving friend. And why wouldn't we? I got bullied when I was 6. I got beat up. When I was 22, I met that guy at a party and we became friends. It happens. A lot of stuff happens. A lot of great stuff happens when we set our intention on it. And we see that the world can mirror it. All we have to do is believe. Believe that there's better out there. And believe that we can do better. And go do it.